It's been almost a year now since the Broncos made that trade that brought Russell Wilson to Denver, but there's still stories being written about how that came about and what the past year in Denver has brought. There was an article published today in The Athletic. It says that the Wilson trade came about only after he had failed in a bid to have head coach Pete Carroll and general manager John Schneider fired in Seattle. Three writers have the byline on the story that says the relationship between Russell and the men running the Seahawks had come apart. The three had combined to go to a pair of Super Bowls, winning one. But Seattle had not gone back to the big game for 8 seasons since. The article says the quarterback and the coach had different ideas about how the offense should run. In the article, anonymous sources say Russell Wilson was frustrated enough to go to ownership and ask for Carroll and Schneider to be fired. It didn't happen, of course. Instead, it was Wilson who was moved, traded to the Broncos. Now, that article hit today. Russell Wilson responded this morning via Twitter saying, "I love Pete, and he was a father figure to me, and John believed in me and drafted me as well. I never wanted them fired. All any of us wanted was to win. I'll always have respect for them and love for Seattle." The article contends that Russ did have a replacement in mind if he were to get able to get ownership to move on Carroll. It was none other than Sean Payton up in Seattle. There is a lot more in that article about this past year in Denver, but interesting to see that report in The Athletic today. So if Russell Wilson had been dreaming of playing for Sean Payton in a rather circuitous way, his dreams have come true.
And differently than he expected. But he also really loved Drew Brees, this article said, always followed his career. And some other interesting things that kind of shed a little bit of light to me on Coach Hackett and his experiences with Aaron Rodgers and maybe why he did some of the things he did in Denver.
Yeah, talking about the year that Russell Wilson spent in Denver and, of course, the idea of him having his own office and some of his staff on site with the Broncos, all part of that article. And, you know, things are changing now with Sean Payton in charge instead of Nathaniel Hackett. But, you know, interesting to see how that whole thing did play out, according to those writers and those anonymous and some people who went on the record, those sources talking about Russell Wilson and how that ended.